All right, guys. You guys know what time it is. The mods are getting toxic, so it's time to spin the wheel. Let's do it. All right, who won? Antonio Helmut. Antonio. Antonio. What do you got for us today, Antonio? Let us know the name of the song in the queue, and we will load it up. We will load it up on the queue. Rigged. Rigged. It doesn't matter who it is. It's rigged. Antonio Banderas. Yes. You want to bring beautiful sounds in the world, then just do it. A beautiful band, a nice band that does stuff like that is Corpo Mente. Making up your own language just to sing a song. There you go, Not Matthias. Go check them out, and then go do it in your own way. Wanting is an emotion. Yeah. Desiring, absolutely. But this is what you gotta figure out. The why behind what you do. How do you get a space on the wheel? It'd be a subscriber. I think the wheel picks like 100 random subscribers who are online right now, and it'll put you on the wheel. Antonio Helmut, my man. We'll spin again in a couple seconds. If Antonio's not here, then we will spin the wheel again. And you can tell us if you're here, and then you can go pick your thing, right? All right. Stargazers. Nightwish. Stargazers. All right. Can a mod tell me the number of that, or the approximate number of that? 31. Thank you very much. I've got it right here. Loading it up. Nightwish Stargazers live at Tampere. We'll give that a proper intro. All right, guys. This is Nightwish Stargazers live at Tampere. Thank you, Antonio Helmut. Congratulations on winning the spin of the Wheel of Death. Capriani, thank you for 500 bits. Much appreciated. Thank you. It's huge. It's very, very appreciated. Thank you. All right, Stargazers live at Tampere. Let's do it. I guess my woos aren't working today.
We would like to play you a song from back in the days. Would you like to hear an old song?
Yes.
A song that has been off of the Nightwish set list for over 10 years. But we brought it back on this Endless Forms Most Beautiful World Tour. And it's been such a joy to play. So Tampere, do you want to hear this song?
Tampere. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's the spirit. You were definitely ready for Stargazers!
She's so sick, dude. She is so sick. I was applying so much mental resistance to not pause, right? Oh man. Whoo! It's been a while. Should we do a double feature? I don't know. Chat, or not chat, but comments get pretty toxic when we do that. Who knows? It does do really well though. But it was very toxic the last time we did it back to back. Yeah, enjoy first talk after. Exactly, Spralos. Yop, thank you for those 5 tier 1 gifted subscriptions. Let's review, shall we?
That's the spirit. You were definitely ready for Stargazer!
Eve, it's definitely interesting, especially with older songs that were written for one singer, performed by another singer. In the operatic world, that's literally everything. And all the singers that the stuff was written for are dead, so it's just people doing stuff that was written for someone else. In the metal world, in the pop world, we hear it much less often. So it's always kind of a point of contention when one singer who's still alive is being, their music that was written for them is being sung by another singer. I don't think it's that crazy, and I think both singers bring so much to the material. But there's a lot to talk about in this one alone, so yes, it is possible to love all the eras of Nightwish. I agree, Janelle. I agree. Her parents were in the audience. That's cute. That's sweet. I supportive family. That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Should we talk about the singing now? Hangity, thank you for the 100 bits. Thank you very much.
Yes!
Let's hear how we start off. Yes, Capriani. Yes, Spralos. Love more, hate less. Dude, you can hear that bass so clearly. So what I love hearing in her voice is how when she goes up into that higher register, while she is adding space and resonance in her vowels by keeping everything very much closed in the front, you'll notice when she talks about her belting, it's all about the space she creates in the front and the breath power that she applies to the abdominal muscles. Now what we're hearing is kind of the inverse, right? She's not creating front wide space. She's creating front focus in the lips and in the anatomy. And what she's doing with the breath is not applying power, but applying steadiness, right? And that's what she's applying here. It's an overall steadiness instead of what we hear her when we hear her belting and that kind of thing. It's all about abdominal power. This is about steadiness, and the best way to hear it is to listen to the stream of the vocal line. When she's belting, there's a lot more percussiveness in the text compared to this. Now, when we're hearing that operatic tendency, there's a lot more stream, a lot more steadiness, a lot more flow, and what we would call in the Italian school as legato, right? Such a pleasure talking about her voice, seriously. Now, the qualities, I wouldn't call what Floor does like traditional operatic singing. We all call it the operatic style. It's a classical technique, right? It's reliant on relaxation of the larynx to create colors in the vocal tract in a very easy way. But what we hear prevalently is when she goes up into that second register, up into that primo passaggio, that first passage, that first transition area, it's that's when we start to hear the vibrance and the color. And when she's singing in this capacity, we do hear a little bit of a flutter in the vibrato. And that, I think, comes from, that's the kind of thing that happens, it's the type of voice she's singing. When that whole thing comes up with her jaw wiggling, and it sounds great, don't get me wrong, but the jaw wiggle will make her more prone to have a flutter in the vibrato, which is, again, it's just a color, and it's happening because of a little added articulatory tension. When you're singing this way, you benefit color-wise, you benefit vocally from letting the diction go away. But if you want to keep some of that diction, you're going to compromise a little bit when it comes to the type of vibrato that's being made. So she's creating this sound, and she's not allowing any compromise for text, and that's why we get a little bit of flutter, a little bit of jaw wiggle. But again, nothing wrong with that. Really, really nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And as she goes higher, we'll hear this a little more. We'll hear the dichotomy between, release in the sound and then clear articulation of text. And what's really interesting is I'm glad we got to listen to the whole thing through before, because at the end, we get something totally different. So that vocal flexibility, we know that Flora is so good at those quick runs, but it's this technique that really facilitates that quick runs. Antonio Helmet, thank you for the 500 bits. Thank you very much. I think the better question, Frank, is any singer able to do anything wrong? I think wrong is such a... Never mind. That's a whole can of worms I don't want to open up right now. But Flora, no, I don't think so. The flexibility that she's able to have on these runs, you can hear it in these intertonal runs. One sustained note, very quick, seamless passage between them. Her live Ave Maria with Marco, 2019 maybe, from Raskasta Yulua, that's a really great example. So yeah. Right there. No. That's one of the most impressive things. Maintaining the color while also having that floridness. We call it florid, or we call it like that agility in the sound. That's all driven from breath. But it's not breath power that she talks about when she belts. It's breath flow consistency. You probably don't do it when you speak. When you speak, if you were to just pay attention to the breathing you're doing, you probably, and I do the same thing when I'm speaking right now. I'm trying to pay attention to it, but it's just like breath. You articulate the sound of each word with a different separate sputter of air, whatever you want to call it. To do this, you have to keep the air going consistently and then allow the natural vibrations of the vocal folds to facilitate that pitch shift. Very, very, very virtuosic. But the reason we lose a little bit of that and she goes into some straight tone again, there could be many reasons for that. That's when we don't get that true operatic technique, which is, again, fine. True operatic technique would do very poorly in this setting with a microphone right up in her face, with all these other instruments going around. It wouldn't go well. But the color she's getting is that thing that we should focus on, because that's that gorgeously round, supple, released, and we talk about this sometimes when we talk about floor singing, but being able to stay that released and that relaxed in her body, that flexible in her body, that is what we go for. Yes, Edoyan, color. Yeah, exactly. But it's the same thing. We talk about vocal color as, part of our color palette for singing, for our vocal painting, right? The color she's going for and keeping that body flexible and released while being on stage in front of thousands and tens of thousands of people. It's just freakish, man. It's mind blowing. Oh God, so much that goes into it. Aside from taste, for me, one thing that stands out, Floor's diction is undeniably better than Taria's while singing in the operatic technique. Very fair. Very fair. But, and one reason I would say is Taria's training is so much more in that realm of maintaining consistent color. And Taria does that better than anyone else in her own way, right? 22 to 24,000 people at Tampere. Yeah. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, right? But yeah, that's totally fair. And this is what I love about this channel and this amazing, reaction community project that we've been putting together over the last several months, is that we get to dive deep into a singer's chronology. And it's like a no-brainer, Capriani, if you look at the history of both of these singers and where they respectively came from, where they trained, what their focus is as an artist. Of course, Tadia is going to have more of that roundness, more of that depth of color across her technique, because that's what she focuses on. And Floor is that master of all things. She's that Swiss Army knife of singing. Dutch Army knife. With all of those different tools, that is at that mastery level, but she's not going to be, she's going to maintain that diction and that expressive tool that is consistent across all the things she does. Whereas Tadia is going to do something differently in a different way that has more flexibility, and she focuses on that more, right? Beautiful. For some songs, you couldn't catch the lyrics until you heard Floor singing them. Very fair. Yeah, that's totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. Diction is a whole, diction is just as important as registration for singers. That goes back to the thing we were talking about just before this. And it's on those really sustained notes that she's able to kind of lean in on that vibrato, right? Really, really cool. Tuomas can use some keyboard lessons. I'm not touching that one. It's also one of the reasons that she goes from doing that basically yelling to singing this lovely, florid, flexible, released classical technique line. It's no, who does that? Who can do that? Only a true master. Welcome, Franksterdam. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Dude, Capriani is trying to light a fire in chat right now. That's so funny. Hey, I'm glad Tank was just doing How's the Heart. I love Tank, man. He's such a good guy. Such a good guy. So this is the phrase I'm talking about that I talked about earlier. She's going into, this is a totally different technique than what she was doing before. And there's even more clarity of diction. This is much closer. It's sort of like a mix between breath, power, and maintaining that color. But like all singers, there's a compromise to be made. And this is where I think Floor thrives the best. Like, this is where Floor's sweet spot is that area between belting and color where it maximizes both power and uniqueness in the sound that she's evoking. And that comes from that's what's yielded when you master these various techniques that she does, is that rock technique, that commercial, that belty, wide open technique, and the colored classical technique. When you master both of those, then you can do this better than anything else, better than anyone else, right? And you can hear this in her discography if you listen to those old After Forever studio recordings. That's when you hear this beautiful balanced technique coming together, that halfway between belting and classical resonant technique. That's when you hear this happening, which is like that's when you hear Floor and you're like, oh, that's her, because you hear her come into whatever song she's doing and you're like, oh, that's her. Or you hear her come in an area and track and you're like, oh, that's her. This is when that all starts. No problem being late, anyone, guys. Anyway, I mean, that's really cool about this recording, is that you hear her doing this really well, very classical focus. You hear Floor doing Floor stuff. And then at the end, it's that like relic of what she does better than anyone else. Like, it's so cool. Yeah, I'll let you be chat. I don't even know. Anyway, let's finish this song out, and then you know what time it is. All right, there it is. Very nice recording. I'm shocked we haven't listened to that one yet. Stargazers, really cool. Really, really good one. Thank you for bringing that one up.